Zara pressed herself against the cold metal wall as the larger beings walked past. Their heavy footsteps shook the floor beneath her tiny feet. At only 2 feet tall, she was smaller than most children of other species in the Galactic trading station. Her pale blue skin and silver hair marked her as a Pixian, but even among her own people she was considered unusually small. The trading station buzzed with activity. Merchants from dozens of worlds sold their goods in the massive marketplace. Ships arrived and departed every few minutes, carrying travelers to distant stars. But for someone like Zara, the station felt more like a maze of giants than a place of opportunity. She clutched her small data pad close to her chest. After months of searching, she had finally found work as a translator. Her people were known for their ability to understand languages quickly, and Zara was particularly gifted. She could speak 17 different alien languages fluently, yet most employers took one look at her size and decided she was too fragile for real work. "Watch where you're going, Tiny!" A Krathon trader nearly stepped on her as he hurried past, carrying a crate twice her height. He didn't even slow down to apologize. Zara sighed and continued toward the employment office. Today she was supposed to meet her new employer. The job posting had been vague, mentioning only the need for a translator who could work in challenging conditions. She hoped challenging didn't mean dangerous. Her previous job had ended badly when her employer decided she was too small to handle the stress of negotiating with aggressive clients. The employment office was located in the station's lower levels, where smaller species could conduct business without being trampled by the larger ones. Even here, Zara felt out of place. Most of the other beings were at least twice her size. "Zara Brightstar?" A mechanical voice called her name. She approached the reception desk, having to stand on her tiptoes to see over the counter. The receptionist was a robotic unit with glowing blue eyes. "Your employer is waiting in meeting room 7, the robot said. "Third door on your right." Zara nodded and made her way down the corridor. Her heart pounded as she approached the door. She needed this job desperately. Her savings were almost gone, and finding work as a Pixian was becoming harder each day. She knocked on the door with her small fist. The sound was barely audible. "Come in," a voice called from inside. Zara pushed the heavy door open and stepped into the room. Sitting at the table was a being unlike any she had seen before. He was tall but not enormous like the Krathons or Valdari. His skin was a warm brown color, and he had short dark hair. But what struck her most were his eyes. They were kind, with small lines around them that suggested he smiled often. "You must be Zara," the being said, standing up. "I'm Captain Marcus Chen. Thank you for coming." Zara was surprised when he extended his hand toward her. Most beings simply towered over her during introductions. Marcus had bent down slightly, making it easier for her to shake his hand properly. "You're human," she said, recognizing the species from her studies. Humans were relatively new to galactic society, having only joined the community 20 years ago. "That's right," Marcus smiled. "I hope that doesn't concern you. I know some species are still unsure about working with humans." "Not at all," Zara replied quickly. She had heard mixed things about humans. Some said they were aggressive and unpredictable. Others claimed they were surprisingly compassionate. "What kind of work did you need help with?" Marcus gestured for her to sit down. He had placed a cushion on the chair so she could reach the table comfortably. The simple gesture surprised her. Most beings expected her to manage on her own. "I captain a research vessel called the Harmony," Marcus explained. "We study ancient civilizations on remote planets. The work requires traveling to places where communication can be difficult. We need someone who can help us understand local languages and customs." "That sounds fascinating," Zara said. "But may I ask why you chose me? My size often makes employers nervous about dangerous situations." Marcus leaned forward, his expression serious. "Can I be honest with you, Zara?" She nodded, bracing herself for disappointment. I've reviewed your qualifications. Your language skills are exceptional. You've studied more alien cultures than most beings twice your age. But more importantly, I've heard about your previous jobs. Zara's heart sank. Her employment history was filled with short-term positions that ended when employers decided she wasn't suitable. I heard about how you helped resolve a trade dispute between the Kellen and the Vorth, Marcus continued. Even though your employer took credit for your work, I know it was your understanding of both cultures that prevented a war. Zara stared at him in amazement. No one had ever acknowledged her role in that success. I also heard about how you caught the translation error that would have poisoned an entire Zalarian delegation, Marcus added. Your attention to detail saved lives. How do you know about these things? Zara asked quietly. Humans have a saying, good news travels fast, but the truth travels faster. We make it our business to find out who really deserves credit for important work. Zara felt tears forming in her eyes. For so long she had believed that her size made her worthless. Others constantly reminded her that she was too small, too fragile, too weak to matter. Size doesn't determine worth, Zara, Marcus said gently. Some of the most important work in the galaxy is done by beings who others overlook. But what if I can't handle the challenges? Zara asked. What if I'm too small to be useful? Marcus smiled. Can I tell you something about humans? Zara nodded. On our homeworld, we have a creature called an ant. They're tiny, much smaller compared to humans than you are compared to me. But these little creatures can carry objects 50 times their own weight. They build cities underground that last for centuries. They work together to solve problems that would challenge much larger animals. I don't understand, Zara said. Being small doesn't make something weak, Marcus explained. Sometimes being small is exactly what makes someone powerful. You can go places others can't. You notice details others miss. You understand things from a different perspective. Zara had never thought about her size as anything other than a limitation. I'm offering you a position as our cultural specialist and translator, Marcus said. The pay is excellent, and you'll have your own quarters on the ship. But more than that, you'll be part of a team that values what you can contribute. You really think I can handle it? Zara asked. I think you're exactly what we need, Marcus replied. Our next mission is to investigate ruins on Kepler 438b. The planet has multiple intelligent species, some of which are quite small. We'll need someone who can communicate with them effectively. Zara felt excitement building in her chest. This was the opportunity she had been hoping for her entire life. There's something else you should know, Marcus added. Our crew is diverse. We have beings from 6 different worlds, including 2 other Pixians. Other Pixians? Zara was amazed. She hadn't worked with her own people in years. Kira and Finn joined us last month. They're both specialists in ancient technology. Like you, they were told they were too small for important work. Now they're helping us understand artifacts that larger beings can't even handle properly. Zara felt hope growing inside her for the first time in months. I'd be honored to join your crew, Captain Chen, she said. Call me Marcus, he smiled. We don't stand much on ceremony aboard the Harmony. As they finalized the details, Zara couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to work somewhere she was valued. For years, she had tried to make herself seem bigger, more important, more like the beings others respected. But Marcus seemed to appreciate her exactly as she was. When the meeting ended, Marcus walked with her to the transport station. The Harmony leaves tomorrow at 800 hours, he said. Take tonight to gather your things. And Zara? Yes? Welcome to the team. As Zara watched Marcus walk away, she realized something had changed inside her. For the first time, someone had seen past her size to recognize her true abilities. Maybe, just maybe, she really was worth something after all. That night, as she packed her few belongings, Zara thought about Marcus's words. Being small didn't make her weak. Perhaps it was time to stop seeing her size as a curse and start understanding it as a gift. Tomorrow would begin a new chapter in her life. For the first time, she was looking forward to discovering what she was truly capable of accomplishing. The Harmony was unlike any ship Zara had ever seen. Instead of the cold industrial corridors of cargo vessels, this research ship felt warm and welcoming. The walls displayed soft lighting that mimicked natural sunlight, and living plants grew in carefully maintained gardens throughout the ship. Marcus led her through the main corridor, pointing out different sections. The research labs are here, living quarters down this way, and the observation deck has the best views in the galaxy. They stopped at a door marked with Zara's name. She stared at the nameplate in amazement. Never before had she had her own space on a ship. "This is yours," Marcus said, handing her a key card. "Take your time getting settled. We'll meet the rest of the crew at dinner." Zara's quarters were small but comfortable. The bed was the perfect size for her, and there was a desk positioned at the right height for her to work comfortably. A small window showed the stars streaming past as they traveled through space. She unpacked her belongings, which didn't take long. Besides her clothes and data pads, she owned very little. Her most precious possession was a small crystal her grandmother had given her before she died. It was supposed to bring good luck, though Zara hadn't felt very lucky in years. A soft chime indicated dinner time. Zara made her way to the dining area, feeling nervous about meeting the rest of the crew. The dining room was designed with multiple levels, allowing beings of different sizes to eat together comfortably. Zara climbed to one of the smaller platforms and found herself face to face with two other Pixians. "You must be Zara!" The female Pixian had bright purple hair and an infectious smile. "I'm Kira, and this is Finn." Finn was slightly taller than Zara, with green skin and golden eyes. He waved shyly. "We're so excited to have another Pixian on board," Kira continued. "It gets lonely being the only small one sometimes." Speaking of which, a deep voice rumbled from below. Zara looked down to see a massive being with rocky skin and 4 arms. "I'm Thorak. Don't worry about the size difference. I may look scary, but I'm basically a gentle giant." "Thorak is our geology expert," Marcus explained as he joined them. "And over there is Dr. Yenna, our xenobiologist." Dr. Yenna was a graceful being with flowing tentacles instead of hair. She communicated through color changes in her skin, which Zara could read thanks to her language studies. "She says welcome aboard," Zara translated for the others. "Impressive," said the final crew member as he approached. "I'm Commander Vex, the ship's tactical officer." The tall, angular being had silver skin and large black eyes. "Marcus told us about your language abilities." As they shared dinner, Zara began to relax. The crew treated her as an equal, asking for her opinions and including her in their conversations. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged somewhere. "So what exactly are we looking for on Kepler 438b?" Zara asked. Marcus pulled up a holographic display showing a planet covered in dense forests and ancient structures. "The planet has several intelligent species," he explained. "Most are small, similar to Pixians in size. They've lived there for thousands of years, but recently larger off-world corporations have been trying to claim mining rights." "The problem is communication," Kira added. "The local species have complex languages that most translators can't understand." "That's where you come in," Marcus said to Zara. "We need to document their claims to the land and help them present their case to the Galactic Council." Zara felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This was important work that could affect the lives of thousands of beings. "What if I can't understand their languages?" she asked. "You will," Finn said confidently. "Marcus showed us your records. You're the best translator in this sector." Dr. Yenna's skin changed to a warm golden color, which Zara recognized as encouragement. "She's right," Zara said, smiling. Dr. Yenna believes in me, too. The next few days passed quickly as they traveled toward Kepler 438b. Zara spent her time studying everything available about the planet's inhabitants. The more she learned, the more fascinated she became. The dominant species, called the Arbori, lived in tree cities connected by bridges and platforms. They were small, plant-like beings who could communicate through both sound and changes in their leaf coloration. Their language was incredibly complex, incorporating elements that most universal translators couldn't process. "I think I'm beginning to understand their communication patterns," Zara told Marcus as they reviewed her notes. They were sitting in his ready room, surrounded by data displays and research materials. Zara had been working for hours, but her excitement kept her energized. "Show me," Marcus said, leaning forward with interest. Zara pulled up her linguistic analysis. Their spoken language uses tonal variations that change meaning, but they also communicate emotional context through color changes in their leaves. Most translators only pick up the spoken part. "So they're essentially speaking two languages at once," Marcus said. "Exactly, and there's more. Their written language uses symbols that represent not just words, but also the emotional and environmental context in which those words were spoken." Marcus stared at her analysis in amazement. "Zara, this is incredible work. No one has ever documented their language system this thoroughly." "Really?" Zara felt a warm glow of pride. "Really? This could revolutionize how we communicate with plant-based species throughout the galaxy." As they reached Kepler 438b, Zara felt her confidence growing. For the first time in her life, her unique abilities were not just accepted, but celebrated. The planet was beautiful. Dense forests covered most of the surface, with ancient stone structures emerging from the trees like natural outgrowths. The Arbori cities were marvels of organic engineering, perfectly integrated with the living forest. Their first contact went better than anyone had hoped. When Zara spoke to the Arbori in their own language, including both tonal and color elements, their reaction was one of joy and amazement. "No off-worlder has ever spoken our full language before," said Elder Moss, the leader of the local community. His leaves shifted through several shades of green as he spoke. "You honor us with your respect for our ways." Through Zara's translation, the crew learned that the Arbori had been struggling to communicate their land rights to off-world legal representatives. Previous translators had missed crucial cultural nuances, leading to misunderstandings and legal setbacks. "The problem is that their land ownership concept is tied to their spiritual beliefs," Zara explained to Marcus. "They don't own land in the way most species understand ownership. They see themselves as guardians who have a sacred duty to protect specific areas." "Can you help them present this in terms the Galactic Council will understand?" Marcus asked. "I think so," Zara said. "But it will require more than just translation. I need to help them create a cultural bridge." Over the next several days, Zara worked closely with the Arbori elders. She helped them document their guardianship traditions and translate their ancient texts into galactic standard legal language. But more importantly, she helped them understand how to present their case in ways that off-world officials could comprehend. "You have given us a great gift," Elder Moss told her as they finished their work. "For the first time, we feel heard by the larger galaxy." The mining corporation representatives arrived while the crew was still on the planet. They were typical corporate officials, large, intimidating beings who seemed to consider the Arbori more as obstacles than as people. "We don't have time for primitive cultural ceremonies," the lead representative, a massive Valdari named Krex, announced. "This planet has valuable mineral deposits, and we have legal claim to extraction rights." Zara watched as the corporate team tried to intimidate the Arbori elders. The small plant beings wilted under the aggressive posturing of the much larger aliens. "Captain," Zara said to Marcus, I'd like to represent the Arbori in the negotiations. Marcus looked concerned. Are you sure? These corporate representatives can be quite aggressive. Zara looked at the cowering elders, then at the bullying corporate officials. Something inside her snapped. For too long, she had accepted that being small meant being powerless. But that wasn't true anymore. I'm sure, she said firmly. The negotiation took place in a clearing surrounded by the ancient arbory trees. Krex towered over the small gathering, clearly expecting the meeting to be a formality before claiming the planet. This is a waste of time, Krex declared. These primitives have no legal standing under galactic law. Zara stood up. Even on the raised platform provided for smaller beings, she barely reached Krex's chest. Actually, she said in perfect galactic standard legal language, the Arbori have extensive legal rights under the Indigenous Protection Act of 2387. Krex looked down at her dismissively. And who are you supposed to be, little one? I am Zara Brightstar, certified cultural specialist and legal translator, representing the Arbori people in this matter. What happened next surprised everyone, including Zara herself. Instead of being intimidated by Krex's size and aggressive tone, she felt calm and confident. She had prepared for this moment, and she knew the law better than these corporate bullies. The Arbori have maintained continuous guardianship of this planet for over 3,000 years, she continued. They have detailed historical records, spiritual obligations, and cultural practices that clearly establish their legal right to protect their sacred lands from exploitation. Krex laughed. Sacred lands? That's not legally recognized terminology. Actually, it is, Zara replied smoothly. Section 47 of the Indigenous Protection Act specifically recognizes spiritual guardianship as a valid form of land stewardship. I have the documentation to prove the Arbori's claims. For the next hour, Zara systematically dismantled every argument the corporate team presented. Her preparation was thorough, her knowledge of galactic law was extensive, and her understanding of Arbori culture was complete. But more than that, she had found her voice. For the first time in her life, Zara wasn't apologizing for being small or trying to make herself seem larger. She was using her unique perspective and abilities to protect beings who needed help. This is ridiculous, Krex finally declared. I refuse to be lectured by someone who could fit in my pocket. Marcus started to stand up, but Zara gestured for him to remain seated. She had this under control. Mr. Krex, she said calmly, your size gives you physical advantages, but it doesn't give you legal authority. The law is the same regardless of how tall you are. The corporate team left empty-handed, their mining claims denied based on Zara's documentation of Arbori rights. That evening, as the crew prepared to leave Kepler 438b, Elder Moss approached Zara. You have shown us that size is not what matters, he said, his leaves glowing with warm appreciation. It is the courage to stand up for what is right. As the Harmony departed the planet, Zara looked back at the beautiful forest cities. She had helped save an entire civilization, and she had done it by being exactly who she was. I'm proud of you, Marcus said as they watched the planet fade into the distance. I'm proud of me too, Zara replied, and she meant it completely. 6 months had passed since the mission to Kepler 438b. And Zara's reputation as a cultural specialist had spread throughout the research community. The Harmony received requests from across the galaxy for her expertise. But more importantly, Zara had found something she had never expected to find: a family. The crew of the Harmony had become her closest friends. She spent her evenings learning geology from Thorak, studying alien biology with Dr. Yenna, and sharing stories with Kira and Finn about growing up as a Pixian in a galaxy built for larger beings. Marcus had become more than just a captain. He was a mentor and friend who continued to help her see her own worth. We have a new assignment, Marcus announced during their weekly briefing. The research station on Proxima 7 has gone silent. They were studying ancient ruins when communication was lost. The holographic display showed a remote planet covered in crystalline formations. Proxima 7 was known for its unstable energy fields and dangerous wildlife. The last transmission mentioned they had made a significant discovery in the ruins. Dr. Yenna's skin flashed in worried orange patterns. "She's concerned about the research team," Zara translated. "We all are," Commander Vex added. "Proxima 7 isn't exactly a vacation destination. The crystalline formations create electromagnetic interference that can disable ships and equipment." "That's why they need us," Marcus said. "The Harmony's shielding can handle the interference, and our small crew can move more efficiently than a large rescue operation." As they approached Proxima 7, the challenge became clear. The planet's surface sparkled with massive crystal formations that reached toward the sky like frozen lightning. The electromagnetic interference was so strong that their long-range sensors were useless. "We'll have to land near the research station and investigate on foot," Marcus decided. The research station sat in a valley surrounded by towering crystals. It appeared undamaged from the outside, but there were no signs of life. The team's equipment readings were erratic due to the electromagnetic interference. "The ruins are about 2 kilometers from here," Thorax said, consulting his geological scanner. "The research team was investigating a structure they believed was a temple." "I'm picking up life signs," Commander Vex reported, "but they're faint and scattered. Something's wrong." The crew made their way carefully through the crystal forest. The formations created a maze of glittering passages that reflected and distorted sound. Zara noticed that the smaller pathways between the crystals seemed more stable than the main routes the larger crew members were taking. "Captain," she called out, "I think the smaller passages might be safer. The electromagnetic interference seems weaker there." Marcus looked at the narrow gap between 2 crystal pillars. It was barely wide enough for Zara to pass through comfortably, much less the larger crew members. "Good observation," he said. "But we can't all fit through there." They continued along the main path until they reached the ancient ruins. The structure was unlike anything they had seen before. It was built into the natural crystal formations, creating a hybrid of technology and geology that seemed to pulse with its own energy. "The research team's equipment is here," Kira said, examining abandoned scanners and data recorders. "But where are the people?" Dr. Yenna's skin flashed rapid patterns of alarm. Her tentacles pointed toward the temple entrance. "She senses something dangerous inside," Zara translated. They found the research team inside the temple, but they were in some kind of trance. 7 scientists from various species stood motionless in a circular chamber, their eyes glowing with the same blue energy that emanated from the crystal walls. "The energy fields must have affected their neural systems," Dr. Yenna's colors indicated through complex patterns. "She thinks they're trapped in some kind of psychic field," Zara explained. Commander Vex scanned the chamber with his equipment. "The electromagnetic readings are off the charts in here. Whatever this technology is, it's active and dangerous." "We need to get them out," Marcus said. But as the crew entered the chamber, they began to show signs of the same effect. Thorax stumbled, his rocky features beginning to glow with blue energy. Commander Vex's normally sharp movements became slow and mechanical. "The field is affecting everyone," Zara realized with growing alarm. Marcus shook his head, fighting the energy's influence. "Zara, you need to get out of here. Call for backup." But as Zara looked around the chamber, she noticed something important. The energy field seemed to be concentrated at the height where the larger beings stood. Down at her level, the effect was much weaker. "Wait," she said. "I think I know what's happening." She moved carefully around the chamber, staying low. The closer she got to the floor, the clearer her mind became. "The field is designed for beings of a specific height," she called out to Marcus, who was still fighting the energy's influence. "It's not affecting me as strongly because I'm too small." Zara examined the ancient symbols carved into the walls. Thanks to her language studies, she could recognize some of the patterns. They were warnings. "This isn't a temple," she realized. "It's a defensive system. The original builders were small, like the Arbori. They created this to protect their sacred places from larger invaders." The energy field was growing stronger. Soon, even Marcus would be completely under its influence. Zara had a choice. She could retreat to safety and call for backup, which would take days to arrive. By then, the research team might be permanently affected, or she could trust in her abilities and try to solve the problem herself. She thought about all the times she had been told she was too small to matter, too weak to make a difference. But Marcus had shown her the truth. Being small didn't make her less valuable. Sometimes, it made her exactly what the situation needed. Moving quickly, Zara began studying the control mechanisms at the base of the chamber. The ancient builders had placed their controls at a height convenient for their own small stature. None of the trapped researchers could have reached them, even if they had been conscious. The symbols were complex, but Zara's pattern recognition skills served her well. She had studied hundreds of ancient languages, and many shared common elements. Slowly, she began to understand the system. The defensive mechanism was designed to put intruders into a peaceful trance rather than harm them. It was meant to protect the sacred site while allowing the intruders to eventually leave unharmed. But something had gone wrong with the timing mechanism. "I can shut it down," she called to Marcus, "but I need to access the primary control chamber." Marcus, fighting to maintain consciousness, pointed to a small opening in the wall. It was no bigger than a ventilation shaft, accessible only to someone of Zara's size. Without hesitation, Zara crawled into the opening. The passage was tight and dark, but she pressed forward. At the end, she found herself in a small chamber filled with ancient control panels. The technology was beautiful in its simplicity. The builders had created a system that worked in harmony with the natural crystal formations. But after thousands of years, some connections had degraded. Zara worked carefully, using her data pad to analyze the control systems and her knowledge of ancient languages to understand the commands. She had to trust her instincts and her training. Finally, she found the problem. A crystalline component had shifted over time, disrupting the shutdown sequence. Using her small tools, she carefully realigned the crystal. The blue glow throughout the temple began to fade. In the main chamber, the trapped researchers began to stir as the psychic field dissipated. When Zara emerged from the control chamber, she found the entire crew conscious and alert. The research team was confused but unharmed. "What happened?" asked Dr. Kelvin, the lead researcher. "The last thing I remember was entering the temple. You triggered an ancient defense system," Marcus explained. "Our cultural specialist figured out how to shut it down." Dr. Kelvin looked around. "Cultural specialist? I don't see anyone." Zara stepped forward. "That would be me." Dr. Kelvin stared at her in amazement. "You saved us?" "She certainly did," Marcus said proudly, "and she's not finished yet." Over the next several hours, Zara worked with the research team to properly document the temple. Her understanding of the ancient builders' language and culture provided insights that no one else could have achieved. "This changes everything we know about pre-contact civilizations," Dr. Kelvin said as they reviewed Zara's translations. "These people weren't primitive at all. They had developed technology that we're still trying to understand. More importantly," Zara added, "they created systems designed to protect rather than destroy. Even their defensive technology was built on principles of compassion." As they prepared to leave Proxima 7, the research team insisted on adding Zara's name as the primary author on their scientific papers. Her work would be published in the most prestigious journals in the galaxy. "I can't believe it," Kira said as they traveled back to the main shipping lanes. "You're going to be famous throughout the academic community." "That's not what matters most," Zara replied. She was standing on the observation deck with Marcus, watching the stars stream past. The crystal formations of Proxima 7 were far behind them now, but the experience had changed her forever. "What matters most?" Marcus asked. "I finally understand what you tried to tell me when we first met," Zara said. "My size isn't a limitation. It's part of who I am. And who I am is enough." Marcus smiled. "More than enough. You saved 9 lives today because you were exactly the right person for the job." "I've been thinking," Zara continued. "There are probably other small beings out there who feel the way I used to feel. Maybe I can help them see their worth too." "What do you have in mind?" "I want to start a program to train cultural specialists from smaller species. There are so many ancient sites that larger beings can't properly access or understand. We could make a real difference." Marcus nodded approvingly. The Harmony would be honored to support such a program. 3 months later, Zara found herself back at the Galactic trading station where her journey had begun. But this time, she wasn't looking for work. She was recruiting. A small group of beings from various tiny species had gathered to hear her speak. They looked nervous and uncertain, just as she had once been. "I know what it's like to feel too small to matter," Zara began. "I know what it's like to be overlooked, dismissed, and told you're not good enough," the audience murmured in recognition. "But I'm here to tell you that those voices are wrong," Zara continued. "Your size isn't a weakness. It's a strength. The galaxy needs what you have to offer." She told them about the Arbory and their successful fight against the mining corporation. She described the ancient temple on Proxima 7 and how only someone of her size could have accessed the controls needed to save the research team. "Every challenge I've faced has taught me something important," Zara said. "We don't need to become bigger to be valuable. We need to embrace who we are and find where our unique gifts are needed most." After her presentation, a young Pixian approached her. He was even smaller than Zara, with nervous energy and uncertain eyes. "My name is Pip," he said quietly. "I've always wanted to study ancient cultures, but everyone tells me I'm too small for field work." Zara smiled and knelt down to his level. "Pip, let me tell you about a human named Marcus Chen who taught me something very important." As she shared her story with Pip, Zara realized how far she had come. The frightened, insecure being who had pressed herself against the wall to avoid being stepped on was gone. In her place was someone confident, capable, and determined to help others find their own worth. The Cultural Specialist program became wildly successful. Within a year, teams of small species researchers were making discoveries throughout the galaxy. Ancient sites that had been inaccessible to larger archaeologists yielded their secrets to beings who could navigate tight spaces and understand the perspectives of smaller civilizations. Zara's name became known throughout the academic community, not as an exception to the rule that small beings couldn't do important work, but as proof that the rule was wrong entirely. But the greatest satisfaction came from the messages she received from beings she had helped. They wrote to tell her about new discoveries, successful negotiations, and solved problems that others had thought impossible. Most importantly, they wrote to tell her they had found their worth. On her 1-year anniversary aboard the Harmony, the crew threw Zara a celebration. As she looked around at her chosen family, she felt overwhelming gratitude for the journey that had brought her here. "You know," Marcus said as they shared dinner together, "when I first met you, I saw potential, but I never imagined you would impact so many lives." "I never imagined it either," Zara replied, "but you taught me something that changed everything." "What's that?" "You taught me that worth isn't measured by size, strength, or how much space you take up. It's measured by the difference you make and the lives you touch. She raised her glass in a toast. To the Harmony crew, who taught a small alien that she was worthy of love, respect, and belonging. As her friends cheered and raised their glasses in return, Zara smiled. She had finally learned the truth that had been inside her all along. She was exactly the right size to be exactly who she was meant to be, and that was more than enough.